Good morning. Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to Passion, Purpose, and Possibilities. Having a great morning this morning. Beautiful day. Even if the weather's not great, it's a beautiful day still because you decide if it's a beautiful day. So if you decide it's a beautiful day, then it's a beautiful day. Outside circumstances don't matter. I hope everyone's doing well. This episode is brought to you by IngerSaltEnterprises.com. Thank you for their contribution and support of this. So, a lot of great events coming up as always. So, one of the things coming up here, let me just make sure I pull it up and get it correct. And there's a Create Your Financial Freedom Summit happening on the 17th of this month. So, a week from today. So look for that. There will be more information coming out on that. A lot of great speakers. I had a chance to meet all of them and get to know them a little bit. And you're in for a treat. So that's coming up. Excuse me. A lot of great things. So please go check out IngerSaltEnterprises.com/events. So, and today we have a very special guest who has her hands full with all her business activity, some sick family members, a lot of things on her plate, but she's still able to and willing to take time to share some insights and nuggets with us today. So she's a realtor, a serial entrepreneur, speaker, teacher, marketing strategist who loves to be behind the camera as much as in front of it. And I know how hard that can be to be in front of it because it's easier to be behind it, at least in my experience. And a lot of people that I've talked to, they would rather be behind the camera than in front of it. So if she loves being in front of it, that's something noteworthy right there. She serves like she's chosen in all areas of her life. She believes everyone has a story and love to earn the right to hear yours. I love that. I love that. Everyone has a story. If you don't think you have a story, you have a story. Look in your mirror. You have a story. If you need a place to share it, want a place to share it, audio, video, recording, whatever, reach out and we'll find the right fit. Maybe it's my show, maybe it's someone else's show, but you have a story. So share your story. Someone needs to hear your story. And there are times that someone needs to hear your story 1,800 times because it takes that long for it to sink in to help them. Since 2013, her and her husband have served over 640 families and over 140 million in real estate sales. That's awesome right there. I'm excited to dive into some of these. Oh, come on, my spreadsheet is not working very correctly. Top 1 in production of realtors in Oklahoma City Metro. Spoken nationally at Keller Williams events on marketing homes. He was recognized in 2015 as Innovators of the Year. Published in Inman News for Out of the Box Marketing in 2015. Mentioned as top achievers in OKC Metro 2017. Certified divorce real estate expert and certified family law mediator. Told you, this woman has her hands full. Real estate, not only her passion, she's had her adult life, chronologed and documented through the years since 1999 on Oprah, Steve Harvey, Rachel Ray, the talk show House Hunters, and HDTV. Oh, that is quite a lot already. So without further ado, help me welcome Denise.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing fabulous, thank you. Thank you for being here. You got a lot on your plate this week, and not even mentioned in your intro there. So thank you for being here, and you've got quite a few achievements and things under your belt, and I didn't even finish the list. So let's just dive in right there with how did you get into real estate and being an entrepreneur?
Wow. So that's a loaded question because I had been in property management probably almost 23 years ago. And I had my manager came to me and said, look, you're a natural at this. We don't want to lose you, but we think the natural progression for you would be to get your real estate license. And so when I introduced that idea to my family and friends, I was met with, well, you could never make it. It's too saturated. You don't have what it takes. You could literally never stand out. And why would we want to line the garage walls with superficial pictures of your face with no yard to stake? Like, just kind of silly. And so I didn't the dream didn't die, but I definitely suppressed it. I At the time of my life, I kind of felt like I needed permission to pursue things. And so I wasn't going to take the leap of faith at that time of my life. I was in a relationship that was pretty dysfunctional and in not the best place. I've been married almost 10 years and had two kids. And so I didn't pursue it. And I realized when I was told, no, you can't do this, it really made me step back and kind of do an autopsy on my life. Like, this is not what I subscribe to. I need to be surrounding myself with people that support me and love me and encourage me. And I was allowing other people to steal my dream because they didn't have one of their own. That was basically the bottom line, but I was allowing it. At the same time, I saw an advertisement in Oklahoma City from a reproductive center, and I actually donated my eggs, which you may not know what this entails, being a man, but when you donate your eggs, it was $1,500, and at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had no resources. I was pretty ashamed of the situation that I was in, needing to move forward and not wanting to ask for help. And so $1,500 was quite a bit of money. So I gave myself injections, hormonal injections, 3 times a day for about 8 weeks. I think looking back, I was swollen, I was bruised, I was a hormonal nightmare. And it was just a diabolical thing that I thought I could do to get some money in a nest egg account. At the same time as I was trying to get separated from this relationship, I filed for divorce and I went through a $50,000 custody battle, which was really a dark, dark period in my life. That's just an understatement of how there's no words to even describe it. At the same time, I was going through the separation, divorce, custody battle. My mom was misdiagnosed with a hernia at 49 years old. And I just turned 50 last week. So, the same age, that I am basically. We found out that she had gone through a surgery when she wasn't getting better, and the tumor was encapsulated. It was cancer, but they got it out and they said, oh, she doesn't even need preventative chemo. So we thought, what a miracle. Well, she didn't get better. So we had her meta-flighted to a bigger hospital, and the surgeon came out and said they mutilated her. They left perforations all throughout her colon, and cancer has spread everywhere. So we found out, being from a small town hospital where she had this initial surgery, the surgeon was in a hurry to get to a college football game and just botched her surgery. So we lost my mother in a very senseless way. She passed shortly after she turned 50. We watched her die in an insufferable death. It was awful. So I was going through all of these things, loss and mourning of my marriage, of my mother, and decided I'm going to need some therapy because I'm going to have to rescue myself. I can't wait for anyone to send me a life raft. And by the way, it wasn't coming because I was too prideful to share everything that was going on in my life. So I got some pretty intense therapy. And I can remember going into Kathy saying, I'm too broken to be fixed. I'm here. I show up. That's what I do. But I don't think you can help me. And after 2 years, I was rebuilt. I was reprogrammed. I rediscovered who I was. And I'll skip a million details, but fast forward to I'm working in an office and in comes my FedEx guy. And I fell in love with him. We got married. We blended 5 teenagers, and 4 of them were girls, which was an absolute estrogen circus in our house. And we survived it. And we quit our jobs on the same day to be self employed. And that was back in 2010. We did not do real estate right away. My husband had wanted to do financial services for a long time, and a childhood friend said, "Come with this company. It's amazing." He said he was thriving, wildly successful. Then we found out a couple months in that he was going bankrupt. So we didn't tell anyone that we were scrambling and doing other things on the side to make money because we knew everyone, all of our friends and family would say, "Well, we told you not to quit your job. We told you not to leave your benefits. We told you not to leave your security." We only had $30,000 in our bank account when we left our jobs. And when you think about 5 kids, 3 of them were new drivers, braces, incidental, that isn't very much money. So it was really scary, but arm in arm, we just decided that it was a leap that we were willing to take. And so finally he said, "Let's get into real estate." And I was like, the angels were singing. This was like my life's dream. And I told him, I said, "I don't want to put immense pressure on you, but failure is not an option. I've waited 2 decades to step into what I feel like is what I'm supposed to do in this life." And so we didn't have a paycheck for 7 months. And I'm sitting there thinking, we're doing all the things. We have processes. We have all our systems. We're going to every class, you know, that's made available to us to be more competent. And we are doing everything that we can to tell everyone and their brother and their brother's brother that we are doing real estate. And I can remember calling my dad, who's a farmer, and he's never had a job. And he said, "Denise, what have you watched me do for your entire life?" And I said, "I've watched you plant. I've watched you plow, disc, nurture before the harvest. And it's a long time before the harvest." And he said, "Yes, you're doing all of your actionable steps. You're planting all the seeds. It's going to come to fruition. Just keep the course." And so the last 5 months of the year, we sold 40 homes, which I think the average agent sells like 4 to 8 homes a year. And so I knew I'm where I'm supposed to be. There were many days we wanted to give up, and thank God we didn't. So that basically, in a nutshell, is how I came to get into real estate. It was a delayed dream, yet it was right on time.
I love that. There were several different things that you touched on, and I want to go back to is um, you. One of the things is you said you allowed others to stop you, to tell you don't do this, don't do that. You're who are you? You can't do it. All that stuff. You know, you allowed that. How
Mhm.
often we forget how much power we have within our own selves, and we give it away so freely sometimes, and most of the time
Yeah.
unknowingly, not even recognizing that we have that power. And then and then you did the same thing to yourself. You weren't allowing yourself to be healed. You said, I'm too broken to be fixed. you know so it goes both ways, and I think that was a prime example of showing two of those ways. And then on the positive side, you allowed yourself to have that dream come true, to take that leap of faith. I love what Nicole put in the chat here. I'll show it again. Take that leap of faith with your husband, and quit your jobs and become entrepreneurs. So how how did you really step into that? How would you help others step into that? And how did you recognize that you were giving that power away? And and you talked about it a little bit, but when you really recognized, and then the 2 year journey of being fixed, you're like, I can get better. I can be fixed. I can become who Denise wants to become, not who my family thinks or whatever.
Right. You have to kind of pivot from having every idea, decision, thought being about creating a peaceful environment, which was the place I was in. It wasn't about me, it was about pleasing everyone else in my life. I think for me, I knew that I had to I didn't want the unhealed parts of me to break other people. First and foremost, my kids. It was so important for me to heal because I had human beings that were relying on me to be strong and to be the best mother that I could be, no matter the circumstances. It wasn't their fault. And so I kind of have committed myself to wanting to spend the rest of my life making other people feel less broken and empower and encourage and inspire people that no matter how deep your hole is, no matter, how you've gone to rock bottom, you can scream, scratch, cry, crawl your way out of it, but you have to make the intentional decision to do so. And I think for me, the most amazing things that have ever happened to me have been on the other side of sheer terror. We have to disrupt our soil. And I think for me, like I came to a place where I felt like I was in such a dark place. Like I kind of had an elephant on my back. I didn't even know how I was going to put my feet on the floor to put Pop Tarts in the toaster for my kids. It was that kind of depression. And, life doesn't stop when we have depression. It keeps moving. And I felt like, wow, I'm being buried when really, in retrospect, I was being planted. And that has made me really grateful and thankful for the things that I went through because it rebuilt a warrior in me. It created a grit that I never knew existed in myself. And I will never go back to giving my power away. And it is intentional. And I think that for a lot of us, I think there is a lot of relatability in that. And I want to share my story because I think everyone has a story. We all can look at ourselves, even if you're like, well, I don't really have anything that interesting, or I don't really have anything I could share that would make a difference in people's lives. I disagree. I think that we all have things, but we have to open ourselves up to vulnerability. And that's where the connection of relatability comes in when we have the ability to change lives. But it starts with us being open.
I love how you put it starts with us. Many times in those transitions, when we share our story, it may not impact or affect anyone else but us at first. And
Right.
that's what we need. That's what needs to happen. And like you said, we're being planted, we're being nurtured. Sharing our story is in a way nurture or watering and growing and overcoming whatever we're going through, and you know strengthening our roots so that when we share our story the next time, we have more to our story that we can share, and then
Right.
we do have that impact on others. And oftentimes, when it does impact others, we have no idea and never will who it
It's so
impacts.
true. It's so true. And in 1999, I wrote into Oprah, and she was on my TV screen every day at 4 p.m. And I was having hormonal issues after I had my second baby, and I knew I didn't have postpartum, but I had physician after physician say, "Take an antidepressant, sit down, and be quiet." Well, we know our bodies better than everyone. So I just emotionally dumped this letter to the Oprah show, not expecting to ever hear, any kind of response. And within an hour, I got a call, and they said, "We're going to come out and film you doing everyday things, and we're going to fly you to Chicago, and we want you to share your story because we think that it is a silent epidemic among women after they have kids dealing with these hormonal imbalances." So I went to the show, and this is my first true public speaking gig. and it was on the Oprah show. So it was a little intimidating. I wasn't
No pressure.
completely mentally prepared. Yeah, no pressure. So I'm sitting in the front row and I'm like, okay, this is cool. They, the producer's like, it's fine. If Oprah will direct a question at you, the cameras will pan to you. You're kind of melted in the audience. You've got this. And I'm like, I can do this. Well, about 10 minutes before we started filming, she said, I want Denise up on stage with me the entire show. And I'm like, holy moly. So I stand up trying to not have like this crazy deer in the headlights look. And I sit next to her and she's doing sign language under her chair, getting someone to change her her shoes that were uncomfortable. And she looks at me and she said, you're sitting up here because you're vulnerable and you're transparent. You're not afraid to show you're messy. And if you will just lock eyes with me and pretend like we're having a girlfriend chat, you have the ability to change millions of lives. Can you do that? And, when, Oprah asks you if you can do something, you enthusiastically say, yes, I can do this. And so I shared, it was one of the highest rated shows in 99. I was asked to go back in 2000 for a follow-up. I did not have postpartum. She paid for a whole battery of tests. I had no testosterone. So my instincts were right. I quickly got on testosterone and my life was back to normal in a very short amount of time. But that was my first taste at seeing the value and the impact of being vulnerable enough to share a story. And the show was titled Women Who Don't Want Sex, which my mother from a small town was mortified I was going on Oprah for a show titled Women Who Don't Want Sex. Well, that was kind of a tag, title to get people to watch the show. Obviously, if you don't have testosterone and your hormones are imbalanced, you're not normal and you probably don't have a normal libido. But she was embarrassed by the show and didn't want to tell anyone that I was on it after that. But that's not really what the show entailed. But millions of people were reaching out, and it was incredible the difference that I was able to make just by simply sharing my story. And it was just a really profound moment in my life.
That's amazing. And sharing your story now through real estate. A lot of people say, oh, I just do this for a living. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a financial professional. I'm this. I'm a that. But they overlook how much impact they're having because they're sharing their story every day.
Oh,
At home.
absolutely.
With what they do. You know, I may not say a word, but I'm speaking loud and clear to my son my story every single day. you know
Right.
and the people I work with and the people I interact with at the store, and we're constantly sharing our story. And what is our story? What do we want our story to be? you know what do we want our story to have in it? Not do we criticize our story and, oh, well, what will someone else think? My story is not as, I didn't go on Oprah like Denise, and so my story is not as glamorous or not as impactful as Denise's.
Or I didn't lose my sight or lose a limb. You see these really amazing, empowering stories, but you don't have to have a story, that catastrophic to be able to change lives. You just need to have relatability.
Yeah, absolutely. And it needs to be authentically yours. Not
Yes.
trying to fit a mold. It needs to be your story, and it's just as powerful, just as impactful as any other story. Because I often tell my guests, I've got 2 people watching my show right now. That's not big numbers. That's no
Right.
Oprah Winfrey show. But somewhere in 10 years or 20 years, someone's going to watch this and it's going to have a big impact, and I'll never know about it. You'll never know about it. Then out of the blue, we'll get, hey, I saw your episode on da da
Yeah.
da da da. Or my grandpa watched this 20 years ago and told me
Mhm.
about it, and how, so we're always sharing our story, and we should
But
always
even if it
strive.
only impacts one, maybe it's the one person that needs to hear it. And then
Exactly.
that it's a trickle that, like you said, we may not ever hear about it, but then it may resonate with them. And we have no idea the power from, the trickle effect of them being moved by it and sharing the story, and that person sharing the story. So two people could impact 1,000 people. We just maybe don't know about it.
Yeah, and then our connections grow. Like
Mm-hmm.
we got connected through different
Mm-hmm.
Facebook events and stuff, and
Yes.
so the people we interact with are now expanded. And I'll use an example
Mm-hmm.
again. Nicole, she's hosting the summit that I'm part of next week, and
Okay.
we were able to meet a little bit with the other speakers and stuff, and all of our circles got expanded, and our stories are going to
Absolutely.
expand all of those and have that impact there. And so telling your story in whatever form, it doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be on a podcast, it doesn't have to be on a stage. You tell your story through real estate on HDTVs right now, or I tell my story through all my clients that I help, and I tell my story at the grocery store just by saying hi.
But isn't that true? What you just said, like at the grocery store, because I think we're all missionaries no matter what we do. Like, no matter what our profession is, I minister and help my clients. I mean, I do feel like an unqualified therapist because if, I see the dark, hurt places of people. I deal with death and divorce a lot in my business. And so we're all given opportunities, whether it's at the grocery store or whether it's with your clients, don't you think? We
Yeah,
underestimate when we
yeah,
can make a difference.
yeah. We give that power away. Oh, she was on Oprah, so she can tell a bigger story than I ever will.
No,
You know, and
it's just not true.
it's just a different channel. If you're comparing to being on Oprah, then reach out to Oprah. There's other
Anyone
channels.
can.
Yeah, reach out to Oprah, reach out to Steve Harvey,
Hmm.
whoever. Or better yet, do what they did and go create your own network.
Right. And you don't have to have a podcast. You don't have to be on a big show. Like for me, I'm thinking the power of social media. We all have a platform where we have a show. We have our own theater. We are and we're in charge of how we perform and what our content is. For us, we've decided that our social media platform is to make people feel like they're doing life with us. Like we just want them to feel like they truly know who we are because our main objective is to just be real and authentic. And for us, in turn, we've gotten a lot of business because what you see is what you get. And so um, we probably post 10% about real estate. It's evoking emotion and telling stories, but it's just doing life with us.
I want to share this picture that you sent me, if that's okay. And, there's lots of ways that you're sharing your story right there, and it's because, like you said, you were just being authentic, sharing your story, reaching out, helping others, having those conversations. You mentioned that thing to Oprah was a heartfelt letter, you know, and anyone can have a media sheet that looks like this. What are their platforms? How are they serving others? How are they connecting and helping others? You know,
Mhm.
so I love that. And
And understanding that there's treasure in trauma. Like for me, I became a certified divorce real estate expert and a family law mediator because I have a deep, deep empathy for people that have gone through divorce. And I deal with divorce all the time in real estate. And it's not just putting a sign in a yard, it's people selling their family dream. They're selling the home they brought their children home to that they thought they were going to live happily ever after, and everything has crumbled. It's been a way that I've been able to use something really terrible in my life to help other people walk through it as unscathed as possible. So we can draw from the places and our mistakes and our trials and our denials, to me, have been a gift, and they've given me credibility, not been a hindrance, because now I feel like I can be a beacon of hope and a lighthouse through others through that source of empathy and in making it through to the other side of the tunnel of those things, I survived. Not just survived, but thrived.
Yeah, I've got two quotes that I think kind of fit in here, and one is, one man's trash is another man's treasure,
Yeah.
and that's to say, what we think of as a disaster can turn into something beautiful or something very valuable. And then another one I saw the other day, um, it said something to the effect of, what didn't work out for you
Mhm.
actually did work out for you.
Yes, and that makes me think, there's a quote, "A soul that carries empathy is a soul that has survived enormous pain." And I love that one too, just because I've been able to use empathy as a way to carry out, like, convictions, through what I do in my personal life and through real estate.
Um, I love that. I want to segue. We just put up the picture here. You have a
Mhm.
book. You have written a book, and that was mentioned on there. Will you tell us a little bit about the book, how that came about, where people can find it?
Well, I wrote the book. It published in October. 4 days before the book released, my publisher actually died suddenly while she was at Disney World, at her 56th birthday. So it's been kind of a whirlwind situation trying to market this book. I wrote the book. It's called Out of the Box. You can find it on Amazon really easily. And I wrote the book because I wanted to share our unique marketing approaches that we've used to exponentially grow. And I always want to come from an abundance mindset. I feel like a lot of people in any profession, they like to hold everything in tight, how they became successful, their trade secrets. And that is not me. I want to see other people. My mom always taught me there's enough sunshine for all of us. And I just wanted to help other people learn some of the things that we've been able to do to succeed at a high level. We've been able to use the power of storytelling and media and public or press releases, human interest stories, podcast guesting, teaching, coaching, um, just all the things that always come back to storytelling. When we've been on Steve Harvey, we're not on there talking about real estate. We're talking about being blended family experts. I was asked to go back on and talk about the dangers of teen technology. So I get to go on these shows, but not just talk about real estate, but I'm sharing things that I'm convicted about. So when we're in the media, it always links back to Oklahoma City Realtor. Steve Harvey is using them as experts. It stems back in our exposure, but the reasons why I've been able to be on some of these big shows have not been necessarily about real estate. I was even on The Worst Cooks in America, which is definitely not about real estate. It's about being a terrible cook and not being afraid to have people make fun of you. But every time you're on the screen on the ticker, it says Denise Schroder, Realtor. So it links back to what I do. So media has been a huge way that we've been able to create a local branding where people kind of think of us as, well, they're the TV realtors. They're always on TV. Now we're hosting a show called The American Dream. It might be in your area too. It is in major markets all over the country. It's called The American Dream, and they come to your city, and we're highlighting charities, influential people, businesses, and a little bit of real estate in our cities to promote the mom and pa shop and do things to make a difference in our communities, which I think is really, really important, especially since COVID and a lot of our small businesses went under. I think it's a great opportunity for us to highlight and spotlight our small businesses in our areas.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And you mentioned something that's perfect. How you mentioned it is, there's enough to go around for everyone. We get
Absolutely.
so scarcity mindset driven.
Hmm.
You know, if if I if they have all the 20 clients, then I can't have any or whatever.
Right.
Or when I first got into business, I'm like, oh, there's someone else in my geographical area. There's not going to be enough clients for all of us, and or
True.
If they're making lots of money or they're doing this or that or on all these shows, there's not enough for me. But that is so not true. There's so much abundance. There's so much for everybody. Unfortunately, there's so much scarcity mindset. There's an abundance of that too. And
There is. But when you move from proving yourself to being purposeful and intentional, and your main motive is making a difference, because I do a lot of teaching and coaching and volunteer things that I'm not looking for anything in return. I'm just doing it because it fills my cup to make a difference. And I think when you get to that place, it's not all about the dollar. I mean, that's not what fills my cup. Yeah, putting sold signs in the yard are great, and having financial security and stability is great, but it's not what fills my soul.
absolutely, and money is just a tool. I talk about that often. Money is a tool,
Yeah.
but we put so much value on it, where the real value is serving others and helping
Hmm.
others. And like we talked about earlier, starting with ourselves, we need to serve ourselves and make ourselves better, and
Yeah.
know that there is help. There are things we can do. We are needed and wanted on this world. We do have a purpose to fill, and how we fill it through the different channels. Like yours is real estate. Someone
Hmm.
else's could be washing windows. If
Right.
that's how they feel their purpose, and they're just as important as anyone else, and I love that. And I love how much good you're spreading through all these different channels, and on that media sheet. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is not certainly not a bragging poster. Look what I've done. These are just places I've been able to. I've had the privilege of sharing and
Hmm.
serving. You know, when
Absolutely.
you
It's just been the places I've been able to share my story.
yeah, and when you look at it like that, with filling your cup and doing what you're called to do, like you said, the money will come, the important things will fall in place as they should, and I love
And
that.
the opportunities and doors are opened
Oh yeah,
when you're leading your life with the servant's heart. And I think too much is given, much is required. Money is a good thing. It took me a while to not feel guilty about having financial stability. I had people in my life, I lost people in my life that were kind of stagnant, and it got a little bit lonely. But we're able to give to causes and things that we never would have been able to before. When you think about that, we're able to give to so many things that are important to us that we never had the money to before. So it's not something to feel guilty about when you're using it for good.
absolutely. When you're using it for good, because money's a tool. I love that. Um, if people wanted to find out more about your coaching and your book and connecting with you personally, what's the best way they can reach you?
They can definitely find me on Instagram. It's easy. It's at Denise Sells Oklahoma. They can message me. I have a joint Facebook with my husband, and that's on that sheet. It's kind of a mouthful because we have a joint page. So I don't know if you want to put that in the note. Um, yeah, there it is. That's easy. So just do the /TD Schroder. You can find me on there, and if you Google me, you're going to find more information than you probably can even digest. But I'm so easy to find, and I'd love to hear from you. And I love getting feedback about people that have heard me speak or read the book. It's just that's the best part.
Awesome. And I encourage everyone to connect with her. I've had the opportunity to connect with her multiple times, and I haven't regretted it a single time. I
Thanks, Kenny. You're
you know
amazing too.
oh, thank you. I love doing my show because I learn so much, and I fill my cup. You know, by being, I feel like I'm the guest learning, or I'm at I'm the student, if you will, and I
Right.
just
We all have to forever be students, right?
yeah. But every time I have a guest on, I get my cup filled even more like I'm the student. I'm
Mhm.
just eating it up, and I record this so that I can go back and listen to it again,
Yeah.
and especially in those times where you're like, why do I do this still? Only one person's watching. Who's
Yes.
gonna listen to this? And then I go back and listen to it, and like, that's why.
Exactly.
So
Don't
thank
don't
you.
worry about don't worry about the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it took a long time for me to come to that realization. And it's okay. Oh, thank you, Nicole. You are as well. You're phenomenal. So thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Nicole, for all your interaction.
Yep, thank you. Um, Thank you everyone for, yep, and that's awesome. When that comes out, when we have access to that, let us know. So thank you, Nicole. But thank you for being here, Denise. Thank you so much for taking
Thank
the
you for
time to
having
be
me.
here, sharing your story, and not hiding the dark side and just pretending all glitz and glamour and um
Well, and I
everything.
have the flu today. I was hoping that I just didn't look dead on screen.
No, we wouldn't even notice, if we wouldn't have known any better if you hadn't said anything. So it worked out perfect. And so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
your story. Please continue to do that. Everyone, reach out to Denise, connect with her. Go get her book. Um, I put it in the chat. I'll show it
Oh,
again.
thank you.
Go find it on Amazon. Out of the box here. In fact, let me, just so you know what it looks like, I will share the Amazon page of it. So, right there,
A lot of ruffles going on.
a lot of ruffles, and it fits right in because there's a lot of ruffles in our life. We deal with them, we get past them, we
It's
learn from
true.
them, and it makes it pretty. So, and
Yes, I agree.
thank you for everyone tuning in, and always please live your passion, fulfill your purpose, and explore the possibilities. We'll see you.